So I've done this thing recently where I've started to live stream Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. And since today is Sunday, I'm pleased to announce that yesterday was my first ever Saturday evening live stream, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. And I ran into a bit of difficulty and I couldn't wrap my head around it. It took me a long time afterwards, hours afterwards, in a private Discord call with some of my channel mods, as well as another YouTuber, Celtic Canuck, who very much gratefully helped me with figuring out this issue. I thought I was being like hacked or something, but it turns out that I had an audio issue, and I want to take this time right now to address what happened. I ended up calling people idiots on my stream because I thought I was being trolled, which is a very real thing, but also I want to apologize for those that weren't trolling. Here's the clip that is in reference to what happened. Okay, so you can kind of see a little bit in the side chat right there that some people are saying the sound's fine, some people are saying the sound isn't fine, and you might be sitting there on your Samsung or Android device going, I can't hear anything. What are you talking about? But if you're on an iPhone, if you're on a computer, if you're on any other device, literally other than a Samsung phone, chances are you heard what was being said. So I want to apologize to everybody at the start of this video for calling you guys idiots, because moments after that, I did say that trolls were attacking the stream and saying there's no audio, no audio. It's just a common thing that people do. And because I feel so bad for making this big mistake, I've teamed up with Private Internet Access to offer 83% off to the viewers today. So thank you, Private Internet Access, for sponsoring this video. I'd like to thank today's sponsor, Private Internet Access. We have teamed up and we are offering my audience 83% off by using code SUNSHINE, which can be linked down in the description or the pinned comment below. We're living in a world of censorship, and Justin Trudeau is at the forefront of this race. Canadians are being censored left, right, and center, which is why you have to protect yourself with a VPN, such as Private Internet Access. What a VPN does is it encrypts your information so that while you're browsing online, you're going to different websites, your information, your personal data is not shared with these massive corporations. It's almost like putting a cloak over yourself. And the best possible way that I like going about this is using the cloak, such as Private Internet Access. Even when it comes to getting the news here in Canada, there's an insane level of censorship. You can't even get Canadian news on Facebook, for crying out loud. Above and beyond the news, if you want to get different content on streaming platforms such as Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, because a lot of these corporations, they geo-lock content, such as in Canada, you can only watch Canadian Netflix. But with Private Internet Access, you can bypass that and you can watch American Netflix, UK Netflix. It's really an interesting thing, and it unlocks a whole new world of content out there. The best part about it is that you're not just restricted to doing that from a computer or a tablet. You can do that from your phone, and you can have a whole lot of devices linked to your Private Internet Access account, which is incredible. Private Internet Access is not only user-friendly, it's extremely affordable, and it is the best way of saying F you to the government. You can get 83% off of Private Internet Access by using the link down in the description or the pinned comment below. Thank you, Private Internet Access, for sponsoring today's video. There is a tremendous amount of conflicting information when it comes to this NSICOP report. You have the Green Party Elizabeth May that recently came out and said, I have looked at the report, glug, 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 as she drinks her fermented grapes. There is no reason to believe or to be concerned about treason. Then the leader of the NDP comes out and says, I've looked at the report, and even in the redacted version, which is publicly available, there is reason to be concerned, and it further validates that with the unredacted version. So where is the truth? Well, we're going to be taking a look at several clips today. New clips that just came out today. CTV Vashi actually sat down one-on-one with Jagmeet Singh, and also sat down one-on-one with Melanie Joly, also known as Justin Trudeau's mistress, allegedly. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Before we get into it, I want to encourage you all to smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't yet already. It does really help grow the channel. Once you are subscribed, there's a little bell icon that shows up. It's about that yay big. If you can just do me a favor and click and tap that, that would be super duper appreciated. Just adds a layer of insurance so you can actually be notified of upcoming videos. Without further ado, let's get into this. So we're looking at the polls to start off, and everything is still looking copacetic. 211 seats projected, bottom line 183, top end 232. No changes across the board. 99% likely winning the most seats, 99% likely of winning a majority government. So the Conservatives are looking really good right there. What's not looking good is Elizabeth May. So this is Elizabeth May recently saying that there's no reason to be concerned.
Okay, so you're saying that there's no list of MPs who have shown disloyalty to Canada. You were saying earlier today that there's a handful of people involved and that there were none who were knowingly setting out to betray Canada. But
I said fewer than a handful.
Fewer than a handful, okay. But the report does say that some MPs did wittingly assist foreign states in their interference, and that the intelligence is troubling as it relates to parliamentarians. So how do you square those two items?
Well, when you read the redacted report, which is publicly available, there is one really alarming example at page 26 of a former member of Parliament who proactively, and that's the word that's used, shopped out what that MP knew to be confidential information about Canada to a foreign operative. That is the only case like that when you read the unredacted report, which has all the security information and the full conclusions of the committee. That's the one example, is that individual who's a former MP. And I believe that case should be investigated, and there should be a prosecution laid if that information from the security services is correct.
Okay, so Elizabeth May clearly says that even in the unredacted version, which you need a super duper top secret clearance to be able to access, only party leaders can view it, it still only really shows one MP, and they are former MPs. So any reason to believe that we need to worry about this as an ongoing issue, Elizabeth May is saying that doesn't exist, whereas Jagmeet says something differently. Let's take a look.
I am more alarmed today than I was yesterday after having read the report. What is clear to me is that Justin Trudeau knew and didn't act, and Pierre Poilievre doesn't even want to know about serious allegations touching his party. To me, that disqualifies him as a leader, and I do not buy his phony excuses. Both Justin Trudeau and Pierre Poilievre are putting the interests of their party ahead of the country, and that is wrong.
And yada, yada, yada. He proceeds to talk a bunch of crap and says Pierre is not even a leader anymore. He doesn't view him as a tangible leader, and Trudeau needs to do something. So where is the truth? That's what Canadians want to know. That's what I want to know. I'm assuming that's what you want to know. That's what everyone want to know. And we're going to figure out a little bit more of the breadcrumb trail today. So here we go. This is a brand new clip. Why will the NDP continue to support the Liberals despite its criticism over the Fed's handling of foreign interference? Jagmeet says, I'm worried about foreign interference in an election. I don't want to cause an election to address foreign interference. Kind of, I mean, that's an interesting perspective.
The other conclusion you reached, which you talked about, was saying that your impression now is that the Prime Minister is essentially okay with a level of foreign interference occurring in this country. That's a pretty serious thing to say. At the same time, you have endorsed his government. You're keeping Mr. Trudeau in power as Prime Minister. Doesn't that make you complicit?
Not at all. And I want to make this point really clear. I'm worried about foreign interference in an election. I don't want to cause an election to address foreign interference. What I want to do is use my power in a minority government to get answers. I can be very clear. When I was critical of Justin Trudeau, I was equally critical of Pierre Poilievre. I can say with great confidence that neither one, if there was a majority government under Justin Trudeau or a majority government under Pierre Poilievre, neither of them would have allowed for a public inquiry. Both of them have shown behavior where they put the interests of their own party ahead of the country. And there are certain incidents that should absolutely call in anyone who cares about our country to put our country first. And that's why I was very critical of Pierre Poilievre for not even wanting to know what's in there when clearly there's allegations of foreign interference directly related to the Conservative leadership races, touching his party directly, and he doesn't want to know. and that Justin Trudeau did know. And the example I gave was Mr. Dong, which is publicly available, and that's why I can use that example, is that with Mr. Dong, it was clear that he was briefed, given information about foreign interference from intelligence officers and intelligence officials, and accepted a certain level of interference because he didn't say that we're going to remove the candidacy of Mr. Dong. What I want to point out to Canadians as a leader, we vet candidates. If someone has done an egregious tweet or post, they are sometimes vetted out. That means they cannot run.
But this isn't just
like
a candidate with a bad
foreign
record.
interference.
This is such a serious allegation. Like, you've spent the past 2 days talking about how seriously you are taking it versus other leaders. But you have to see from the vantage point of Canadians how I get what you're saying. Forcing an election right now, maybe not the best avenue. But your agreement doesn't have to remain as a formality. Just because you break out of that agreement and stop your clear endorsement of the government doesn't mean that you have to cause an election. You can still vote with them on certain matters of confidence. But you appear unwilling to do anything to change that agreement, even when you accuse the Prime Minister, whom you're keeping in power, of being okay with a level of foreign interference in our own country's political system.
Well, I think that's factual. The facts bear out the fact that he's accepting a certain level of foreign interference. When we vet candidates out as leaders based on an egregious post on social media, we should be able to vet out candidates when there is serious allegations of foreign interference. But I want to be clear, we have used our power. We have been very critical of this government and forced them to do things they would not have otherwise done. I made the point that a majority Conservative government under Pierre Poilievre or a majority Liberal government under Justin Trudeau, neither of them would have moved ahead with public inquiry because we can see in their actions their unwillingness to take this seriously. But we forced a public inquiry to happen.
But they're doing nothing right now. Both of them are doing nothing right now. The government is doing nothing on foreign agents.
Let me be very clear. We are the first ones to call for a public inquiry. The government said no. And then they said maybe we'll do a special rapporteur. They had the special rapporteur. We had the special rapporteur step down as a result of our opposition motion. We forced the government to move forward on a public inquiry. And then not only did we force the public inquiry, we forced the public inquiry to include India after clear information and intelligence related to India's involvement of the killing of a Canadian on Canadian soil. We have used our power in a minority government to purposely push for more transparency and clarity, which would have not been there if we had a majority Liberal or Conservative governments.
So a lot of talk from Jagmeet, but never a lot of action. This is what a lot of people, this is why a lot of NDP supporters, which I mean are very few these days. I can't believe that there's actually people that would consciously vote for Jagmeet Singh, given his cockroach behavior, his delusions, his empty threats. Take some action, Jagmeet. I mean, I understand now, and I hate to admit it because it sucks, but I understand that if we're actually facing foreign interference, which it seems like we are, call an election, we would be subject to foreign interference again. So how do we get out of this? Well, now we're stuck in the predicament where Jagmeet has what seems like a valid excuse to hold on to for the next 18 months as to why he's not calling an election instead of it being his pension. He gets to deflect saying, I don't really know anything about the pension stuff, but it's obviously foreign interference is way more severe. So why would we call an election if there's foreign interference? Like, shit. That didn't age well, did it? Yeah. Let's take a look at Vashti talking to Melanie Joly, also known as Trudeau's mistress, allegedly. Questioning or responding to criticism, the federal government is slow to respond to foreign interference and not taking the issue seriously enough.
I have heard you use that example of the diplomat that you kicked out frequently to show Canadians that your government is taking this very seriously. But the NSICOP report really undermines that conclusion by pointing out in great detail the degree to which your department was in receipt of intelligence from CSIS about him for years, including since when you became Foreign Affairs Minister, and did not take any action. So much so until the day that the Globe and Mail reported on Michael Chong being targeted, GAC reached out to CSIS for intelligence, and the intelligence that was provided was, quote unquote, according to NSICOP, already released. How can Canadians trust that your government is actually taking this seriously when NSICOP clearly points out on multiple occasions, including that occasion, that you did not?
I met NSICOP, and I had many conversations with the members of NSICOP on this issue. And what to your very question of me being aware, I was made aware at the same time as this became public through the media. And it was back in the spring of 2023. So clearly there was an issue within how the government and the public service was organizing briefings for intelligence. And from the moment I got the information, I acted. Now,
so you never saw anything about him prior to that because your department was clearly in receipt of that
I know,
intelligence.
but I was clear, and that's my story, and I stick to it. That being said, following that, we took many measures. Because, of course, we need to make sure if there's any meddling within our democracy or any form of covert operations by foreign countries in Canada, we need, and I need to be aware. And of course I'll take action. And I've been acting based on what I thought was the best way to conduct diplomacy and defend the interests of our country.
Do you think, though, genuinely your government has taken this issue as seriously as it should? And I ask again based on the conclusions reached by NSICOP. The Prime Minister, following these allegations that have come out about the possibility of foreign agents, has said, well, it's up to the RCMP. Later, a week later, the Minister of Public Safety said, oh, let's send it to the inquiry. And that's only upon the suggestion of the Bloc. What evidence do Canadians have that your government is taking this seriously, and why wouldn't you?
Well, Canadians have clear evidence, Vashi. First, we came up and decided to do a public inquiry. We're the first country on
You were very much pushed into that after months of saying it wasn't necessary.
So we did it. Second, we decided to make sure that parliamentarians could have access to intelligence, which that was never the case before. And so the public,
but again, you were pushed into that by Michael Chong being
and
targeted and nobody knowing.
We created the public, the NSICOP also committee. Listen, I'm not the public safety minister, but what I can tell you is we've been very forward-leaning. Now, have we done enough? No, clearly. That's why you're asking me questions. That's why people are preoccupied. Will we do more? Of course. And we just presented legislation on this issue. But that being said, we have now a very good judge that is doing tough work. She will come up with a report. She came up with the first report. She's coming up with a second report. And we'll follow her recommendations, period.
Yeah, so the unfortunate circumstance of this is Justin Trudeau, while over at the G7, was asked about this report. And he said, well, there's something wrong with NSICOP and their report is invalid. So these people, they praise the organizations that they start, like NSICOP, which was created, I believe, under Trudeau's regime. They came out with a report saying there's some treason happening. And then they start to, throw shade at these groups saying, well, hold on here. We need to investigate the group of investigators because something isn't right. It's just, it's a weird clown show. And I feel like they're putting on all these theatrics and they're beating around the bush. And how long are they going to be able to do this for? Before there's a leak, before there's an election, who knows, right? But I'm freaking starting to get pissed off, man. This is my country. This is our country. This is our tax dollars hard at work going to theater kids. It's unacceptable. Another clip here of Melanie Joly responding to Jagmeet Singh's claims moments prior when he was interviewed by Vashi.
I wanted to start off on the topic of foreign interference. And in particular, I want to ask you very, very pointedly, are there, quote unquote, traitors to this country, as Jagmeet Singh put it, in the Liberal caucus?
Listen, when I hear these loaded words, I feel that it's really hurting our democracy. Because fundamentally, foreign interference is a real thing. It's been happening for years. Now it's more of an issue because also of disinformation, misinformation online. But all democracies in the world are facing this. I'm talking about this with my colleagues of different democracies, particularly amongst the G7, and we are the country that is the most forward-leaning on this issue. We're the only country having a public inquiry on this. And the goal is to shed light on the issue and also to find solution, but the goal is not to not make it a partisan issue.
Is that what you're accusing Jagmeet Singh of doing by using that language?
No, I'm accusing Pierre Poilievre of doing that. Because fundamentally, what we need to make sure is that everybody has the same facts. So Pierre Poilievre right now, the Conservatives, are not taking the briefing on an SICOP, on this Foreign Affairs Committee that lots of people have been talking about, and that's what we're talking for those watching us right now. And he's not taking the briefing. He doesn't want to have access to confidential, secret information, while other parties members and other, basically other parties have decided to take it. And right now, he's making it a partisan issue and also saying basically if foreign interference is happening in his own caucus, he won't do anything about it.
And I think those are very real questions to ask the Conservative leader and ask the Conservatives, and I have been asking the Conservatives, but my question to you was about the content of what Jagmeet's saying and how it applies to the Liberal caucus in particular. He used the language that there were traitors to this country, and I'm asking you very pointedly, and you didn't provide an answer, whether or not there are any people in the Liberal caucus who are acting on behalf of foreign countries.
Listen, if that was the case, they would be out of the Liberal caucus and they should be out of every single party. And that's why my job as Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Hold on a second, man. Why did it take so long for that to be said? Right? It's taken months, years. This has been a topic of conversation for over a year now. Are there any sitting members in Parliament who are subject of or have been complicit with foreign interference? So now they haven't answered it until just now. So that tells me, just my own personal opinion, that potentially they were sitting a year ago. So Han Dong, was he one of them? Because he's not really there anymore. Marco Mendicino, he's not really there anymore, right? Like now we have to kind of backtrack between who was there a year ago and who isn't there now. Very bizarre that it's taken so long to get some form of answers from this.
Affairs is if I see anything that is linked to foreign diplomats not staying in their lane, not abiding by the Vienna Convention, not basically meddling in our democracy, I set them packing. And that's exactly what I did with Zhao Wei last year, a year ago, when I addressed this issue, and I made sure that he was called persona non grata, and Zhao Wei is the former Toronto consul for China.
Huh, very bizarre. So, okay, so we have a name. Zhao Wei. We have one name, and there potentially could be another. We don't have the other name. If that's it, then why not just come out and say directly to the cameras, look, the only person that's been ever complicit or guilty of any form of treason or foreign interference is that individual. I don't know why they turn this into a show. So either they're lying, there's more to it. We're going to have to wait and see. But at least we got one name. It's progress, folks. It's progress in a progressive Canada. We finally got one name, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know down below what other names you think would be complicit with treason or complicit in this foreign interference accusations. Let me know in the comments. That's where we're going to end the video. Folks, on your way out, I would like to encourage you guys to smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't yet already. It does really help grow the channel. And I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.